Hello and welcome to some midweek crafting. My name is Sasha Reed. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. We are going to have some fun with a new technique to me. This is a technique that I picked up from a lady named Teresa Morgan, who I saw in one of the craft magazines that I follow, and I thought this looks like good fun. I wanted to have a go. So it's going to involve some cling film. I'm also going to use some masking magic. You could use any kind of sort of masking paper. You could cut your own mask out of cardstock. Really quite easy to do. And I'm starting with a 5 1/8 of an inch card base so that my panel here is 5 inches by 5 inches. My first one I'm going to do, I am using this balloon stamp set which comes with matching dies. So it is ideal to have a set of dies that match your stamp set, but it's not necessary. You can fussy cut. So I have got the masking paper here and I'm just going to die cut out the shape because this stamp set comes with a matching set of dies, so it's nice and easy. But if you don't have dies, then you can just fussy cut round. You just stamp your image down on your piece of cardstock or your piece of sticky paper, and then you can just trace around it with your scissors and cut it out. I hate fussy cutting, so I went through my stash and found the stamps that had matching dies so I could go ahead and do this. I wanted to have some bits of my card that were left white so that they really popped out, and that's why I'm doing this bit here where I'm masking it over. So I wanted a really massive bundle of balloons. I'm not sure if I actually succeeded or if it just looks like a hot mess. But I'm happy-ish with the end result. But I did want to make a big bundle of balloons, so that's why I'm stamping it 3 times. I do want to make sure that I dry a little bit of that ink just because I'm using a pigment ink. And if it's still a bit wet, it can stick to the back of that low tack tape that we're using, the masking tape, masking paper, and I was worried about it kind of smudging. Now here I felt like the balloon stringies went a bit too far down and I had enough balloon tails or strings that I didn't really need the ones from this, so I put a little bit of extra masking paper down there. And I do forget to remove it in a minute when I go and lay this one on top. So therefore, you can see the ink is still a bit wet and it's stuck to that masking paper. So I do end up with that going onto my card where I didn't really want it, but it's not a big deal because I do cover it up with sentiment. Now for my background, I could have done some ink blending, but I just thought I'd rather go with a bit of a ombre look, so I'm going from darker to light, and I'm just gradually lessening my pressure on my dauber or my ink blending tool and gradually making it go lighter towards the bottom from the top. So a really simple, easy way to get a bit of a graduated color effect going on. Now you do want this to dry for a bit, so leave it for a little while, let it dry because we're going to add some embossing onto it. You don't have to do embossing, you could do ink, which you'll see in the next example, but I decided I wanted to try it with some embossing powder. Now, word of warning, my embossing powder is translucent, so you might want to find one that is opaque. So translucent means you can see through it, opaque is covering up the colors underneath. Now, as you can see, I've just taken my saran wrap or cling film and just scrunched up into a long line. And I'm going to take my VersaMark and a brayer, and I'm just going to ink up my brayer with the VersaMark and put it onto the saran wrap. You could drag your ink pad along it, which is what I do in the next example, but this way also works for a bit more control. You're then going to stretch out your saran wrap so that you can pull it apart and get some really cool lines coming down the front of your card. So it looks like a very distressed, kind of wonky, fun background. This is where I probably should have stopped, but I thought, oh, I want a few more lines. Those look quite cool, and I've got a lot of balloons going on. So if I'd left out probably one set of those balloons, these lines would have been enough, but I lost a lot of those lines to the balloons, and I thought it was a really fun background, so I tried to add some more. And you can see it probably is a bit overkill. But this was my first ever time doing this technique. This is my first time having to go with it and trying it out. So you live and you learn. And my next one I absolutely love and am thrilled with. So stick with me. You'll see another version of the video. So again, I come back in with my saran wrap and add a few more lines onto it and then add on some more of my embossing powder. And with this stuff, it's super mega glittery. So you want to heat it from the back and then bring it around the front. Otherwise your glitter is just going to blow off and spray everywhere. So here's me trying to correct it a little bit and make it look a little bit more stripy rather than blobby. Now we can go ahead and peel off that masking paper and reveal the cool, bright, white, gorgeous image underneath. And we can kind of see that fun, stripy background behind it. Now I did forget to remove that bottom bit of my piece of masking paper that I had originally covered up in the beginning. So I just took my dauber and colored in some more ink on there. Then I'm going to go ahead and stick it to my black card base, and I will glue a white insert on the inside of my card as well so that there's somewhere to write. And I've got that front of my card ready to go. It's nice and flat. It will post really easily. If you wanted it to post even easier, then you could go ahead and take your sentiment and make that nice and flat as well. So for this next bit, I took my embossing powder and I just made a big chunk of it on a piece of cardstock. I ran my VersaFine ink pad over it, or my VersaMark ink pad over it, and created a nice bit of cardstock that matches that background. Now I couldn't work out what to do at first, whether I wanted it to be the glittery words or the glittery background. In the end, I went for the glittery words rather than the background, and I popped that up with a bit of foam tape on the bottom. Now here, I wasn't sure whether I should color in those balloons or leave them as they are. Let me know in the comments what you think I should do with the rest of that card, if I should just leave it or do something more. For my next card, I'm using this gorgeous butterfly set. It comes with a whole bunch of stamps, some fun intricate dies, and then also the outlines to all the stamps. So really great bargain in my opinion. I'm really thrilled with this set. I've used it about 3 times now since I bought it, so I'm really happy. I did have to stamp it 3 times to get a really nice crisp image on it, but when I was done, it looked fantastic. I'm doing the exact same thing I did the first time around, and I'm covering it all up with masking paper, which was easy given I had a die for every single one of those butterflies. Now for this one I used peacock feathers and picked raspberry in the distressed oxides, because when you blend them you get the purple in the middle. So I went ahead and ink blended all of that, and now I'm going to add some water splatters just to get a bit more texture in the background, add a little bit more character to it. And when it's all dry, I can then go ahead and do my fun background. Now, Teresa used some black paint when she did her example, and I thought I would use my black ink because that will dry a lot quicker and easier, and I've got it right to hand on my desk. I have no idea where the black paint is in my room at the moment. So again, I scrunched it all up, and I apologize, this footage is so blurry because I showed you the ink pad and then it didn't refocus when I was done it, but it will straighten out in just a second. Now here are my little black lines I added onto the back. And they do lighten up a bit because I used oxide ink rather than a regular distress ink. So it does make it a bit more chalky effect when that black dries. So I can go ahead and pull off all my butterflies, which is really satisfying. And I've got this gorgeous sort of funky distressed background with these bright white butterflies, and I think it looks stunning. For my sentiment, I used one of these Alina dies, which also comes with a matching stamp set, so you can either choose to stamp the image and die cut it out, or you can use the coordinating die that is exactly the same as the stamp. So I cut it out of some white glitter card and stuck it all together and popped it up with some foam on the front of my card. So this one I absolutely love. I think it looks fabulous as it is. Really happy with that cool funky background. This one here, I'm not sure. Do I add a bit of color to those balloons? I probably should have added less balloons in the beginning. I think it looks much better when it's a bit spaced out. But let me know what you think in the comments, and I appreciate you staying with me today to watch my video. Take care, have a fabulous week. See you on Saturday.